All right.
Okay,
Hey,
we
YouTubers,
live.
it's Dave, Darren, live with you, surfacegeeks.net. We'll do an audio check for everybody out there.
Oops.
Audio, video, check.
All good.
All right. Darren says it's good. We're going.
That's good enough.
Let me check. Let's see what we got.
3 weeks
Check.
without us was torture?
What's that?
Someone said 3 weeks without us was torture?
Yeah, someone.
It's a gift.
Yeah, I was getting a lot of flack. I was getting a lot of flack. I will. We're gonna talk about that when we get started. So, what the heck happened? I don't know. So I have no clue. Let's
Someone broke the Surface Geeks machine.
the big what's that? What was that, Michael? Sports machine. What was
The
it called?
George Michael sports machine, yep.
Yeah, George Michael. The Surface Geeks machine just broke this week. All right, let's go. They're counting your nose hairs, Darren. Are you close
That's
to the
good.
camera?
No,
You don't
uh,
look close to the camera. It's
no more
normal.
than normal. It's my
I
same
see the
straight.
TV. I see the funky art right above the TV. That's
How
Darren's
does
got a
this?
little sun. He's a little
Yeah,
red.
a little red, a little beach color.
He's got a little beach color on him, guys. That's it. That's it. All right, let's go. Creature of habit we are. That's good. I'm glad you guys missed us. I think I'm doing something right for a few of you guys, right?
Oh, you'll hate us in an hour.
No, you'll hate Darren in an hour for sure. Sorry, I'm slurping. It's like really hot coffee tonight. Okay, here we go. Sorry, YouTubers. Hit that record button over here. This is a Surface Geeks podcast recorded on July the 8th, 2014. It's episode number 71 with new Windows Phone updates, Surface updates, and more. Welcome back to the Surface Geeks podcast. I'm your host, David McCabe. I am for yet another year. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I'm a Surface MVP. Thank you, Microsoft, for giving me that.
Where
And
MVP programs go to die.
no, been around at least until November, so I can go to Summit.
No,
And I
not you.
love Summit. So, Mr. Cohen's with me. So it's gonna
Hmm.
be. This is gonna be like the haves. That'll be me, and the have-nots. That'll be Darren. We're gonna be. I'll be the positive. Then we'll have the negative.
Or
That way.
realist, as we like to call it in the real
Okay.
world.
Yeah. Kool-Aid
There we
and
go.
cup.
I'll stick to my iced tea.
Green tea or some
I think it's green
urine-looking like
jasmine.
drink
I
in
think it's
Darren's
green,
cup.
with a tea bag and everything. We're going no more aspartame
You're looking
plastic
country there
bottles.
in your pickling jar there, Darren.
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
I don't mean to give Darren a hard time. It's just that there's some things in this week's show and show notes that generally we get feedback upon, and that's when we point out the darker side of Microsoft and their product. So just to hang in there with us, and we'll get going. But again, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/surfacegeeks. Darren can be found at FinsUpDNC. Mr. Wiskowski is not with us tonight. We've given him the night off because he has been out playing around and running around in a train at an amusement park. But thankfully, he will be back with us next week. Darren, we've been gone for 3 weeks. I've been podcasting since 2008, and I've never gone 3 weeks without a podcast. So I tried last week. Lord knows I tried. Sat down to do home server show last week, and then we are going to do Surface Geeks right after. We were all ready.
And I was sitting right here waiting for that
Yep,
hangout
I
call.
know. And then, so Jim and I were talking. Jim Collison at theaverageguy.tv. We were talking, and video looked good. Video looked great. And then I hit the go live button, and all of a sudden he's like, "Man, your video just sucks," you know. And then a minute later he's like, "Man, I can barely hear you." And then bam, Google dropped me. And then I'm like, "Oh, that's weird." So I restart everything, and I come back, and I couldn't get on the internet. So couldn't get on the internet at all. I mean, I was down. I couldn't hit DNS, everything. So I could ping my gateway, but I could go no further, no further. And so my internet was down, and it didn't come back up until the next morning. So I just rearranged my desk. What else do you do when you can't surf? Is just play on your desk. I had my phone, but you can only do so much. So I took the time to
You didn't
clean
want
up
to
some
tether the
stuff.
phone and hook up start to hang out the podcast machine
I've done
over
it.
LT.
I've done podcasts. I've sat in a car with a phone and done a podcast. But no, it wasn't worth it, and it was just ill timed, because I haven't done one for 2 weeks. Been so busy. I've been coaching baseball. Had a championship run with my son's baseball team, and thankfully he went down to the final game and won. And then we had the internet outage. I had a little vacation in there, so it was just crazy. I mean, crazy. I In the middle of all that, I did my first URL change of one of my sites. So I changed haforums.com to homeautomationforums.com. And I had to do all the URL stuff that goes with it, the 301 redirects with Google, to try not to screw up the SEO as much as I possibly could. And so I was doing tons of that, and that was a mess. I mean, that was literally a mess. Um, so 3 weeks. So we're back, and we're gonna try to stay back. So here's the thing: started home server show tonight with Jim, and I had a guest on, and he's like, "Man, your video's kind of choppy." He said, "Man, I can barely hear you." I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" Just wanted to curse and scream, and then my Google video dropped. I'm like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! This cannot be happening." And I'm on my Surface Pro 3. I can't show you because I'm using it. Well, actually, I could show you because I'm not using it, Darren. I switched over, and this is not a Mac versus PC thing. This is what I have sitting over here. I
This is a
switched over
working machine versus a not working machine.
I switched over to the iMac, and it's running the Google Hangouts just fine. That's why I'm looking at my screen over here. My camera's over here. But yeah, something with Google Hangouts was cratering the Surface Pro 3. Now, I monitored the CPU usage, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. So I need to do some testing. I can't say what it was, what happened, what it did, but it definitely did not like the Google Hangout. And maybe it's just a Chrome thing. I don't know.
You try running the Hangout in Firefox or another browser, or
I I was throwing water on a fire as fast as I could. So I moved over and got the show. I got to do the show, so I moved. Got it done quick. Now here's the thing. Oh, this is for John. So if John's watching, dedicated this for you, buddy. I used to do this on the Surface Pro 2. It used to sit right here in front of me and used to crank out a podcast, 2 podcasts every week. But I sold that. My trusty, reliable Surface Pro 2 is gone. It's gone. I sold that. So,
well,
Surface Pro 3. And this is mine too. This is not the review unit. The review unit's gone too. Gone. I'm on my own. I'm on my own.
there does seem to be a lot of people having some odd issues. Not saying this is exactly one of them with Surface Pro 3, which of course is new hardware, and you're going to run into that with everything new.
True.
So we'll talk about later, the firmware update today that some people seem to say fixed some of their issues. But there's a lot of, if you go on Twitter and just search like the hashtag Surface Pro 3, SP3, stuff like that, there are a lot of weird issues going on with this device. I don't know if it has to do with the change of, from Wacom over to the new digitizer. Apparently the wireless adapter and Bluetooth adapters are different on this than they were in the old ones, and the drivers don't match. And I was trying to follow it, and it was all over the place. And Microsoft really didn't say much except for the firmware update today, and then people were complaining it didn't tell them what it fixed, what it didn't fix. Um,
Well, we've got a
but
list. Now,
right.
someone in the forums icon, I mean in the chat, if you're
Mhm.
watching on YouTube, we've got a chat room, and it's at surfacegeeks.net/live. You can chat directly with us, asking me if I'm hardwired or Ethernet. Well, technically, I'm hardwired, but
It's an
it's
adapter.
USB 3 to a pluggable. It's not, I mean, Microsoft doesn't have a dock yet, right?
And they don't
So,
have oh yeah, they do have the adapter though.
well,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I have a US. I have
Right.
maybe I could try that to see if it's the pluggable that's
Mhm.
giving me all this grief. And so, but I'm going DisplayPort out to a monitor and USB out to a pluggable dock. And then in the pluggable, I have the video camera, I have the microphone, I'm still using a dongle for keyboard and mouse. And what else?
This is why we need that dock, though. I mean, this is like what you just explained, how many steps you're taking, right, to get to the point where we plug in the Ethernet cord. Is why, that
Yeah,
dock is, you had the dock with the Surface Pro 2,
I did, and I sold that. But
right? So, and it's supposed to come in August, and I hope it does, because I think that's one of the key features of the Surface and the Surface Pro 3 is the ability to dock it to as your desktop.
yeah,
And again, it didn't ship with the device, which is frustrating. And right now, that could be your issue, it might not be, but there's no way to tell. Again, you got to go DisplayPort, USB, pretty much a hub to a Ethernet. Like you're
yeah,
four
and
steps from the
I could
device.
easily blame it on like a USB 3 display
Right.
link if I was
Right.
using a display link, but I'm not.
Mhm.
Going display port
Right.
straight from Surface Pro 3 to a 27-inch monitor in front of me. And I used to run display link off of the Surface Pro 2
And this
to
is all
a
coming off of
second.
one USB 3 port, right?
Yeah. I used to run a second 27-inch, but I'm not doing that anymore. That is now my gaming machine. I created a gaming machine, which is a huge tower, and with a big honking video card in it, so I can do some things like that. And so I don't think I'm doing anything crazy. And I looked
No.
at my specs, and the CPU looked great, the memory usage looked great, so it's
Did
got to be a Chrome
were you able to
video,
do other web stuff?
Google.
It's working now, you said, right?
What's that?
It's working now, you said, just not with the Hangout. It's
Yeah,
online now.
I'm watching the chat room.
Okay.
I'm looking at OneNote
So it's
for
obviously
our
working.
show notes,
Right.
but that's it. Video processing, I'm having trouble finding the camera. Video processing and audio recording are happening on a Mac. So
Well, at least you got something working.
I feel bad. I'm like, man, this is one of those things that I can't go to sleep. I got to figure this out.
Oh no. Take a nap.
Okay, stop the podcast. We're gonna troubleshoot.
There you go,
No,
exactly.
so apologies for the gaps in the podcasts. Crazy stuff's been going on, and we'll figure this thing out and figure out what's going on. Hey, don't get me wrong. I still like this device. I still like the device. I did run into a little power issue I want to tell you about when we get to the appropriate time. I did do the firmware update today. So there's a Tuesday, July the 8th firmware update, and I did do that today. So I'm running that. Actually, the Surface 2 behind me running Twitter wall did its update as well. So, oh wait, I don't know if I got the firmware. I take that back. I don't think I got the firmware on that one. I just got the other updates. Um, so let's start. Are we going to do Microsoft in the news?
Yeah, you pick
Little
the topics
threshold
first.
action.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with that one since this occurred before what was supposed to be last week's show, but so we kind of combined the notes from the last 2 weeks. Um, this is Paul Thurrott's source. I think other people have corroborated the same. That Threshold, which will be the next version of Windows, which is going to I think everyone's pretty sure it's going to be called Windows 9 at this point, and that might be as much marketing as anything else after the Windows 8 didn't have the best launch. Um, it has to do with the start menu, start screen stuff. So apparently, the way it's going to work is there's going to be on every machine a start menu, um, which is more on the line of the Windows 7 start menu, but on the right side you'd have more of a metro-y feel in the menu. And from there, you then can expand that to full screen, which would look more like what we know now as the start screen. Um, and depending what kind of device you have, it decides whether you boot to desktop or boot to this full screen start screen. I guess start menu would be the best way to describe it. This goes in line. This is stuff we've heard about over the last few months. They kind of showed off a little bit of this, at least a rendering of it at Build, the start menu.
Right.
It's needed. I think it's come to the point now where they already started today. We didn't put in the notes talking about Windows 7 end of life, which is going to scare the you know what out of business, and you have some putting that out there, so you can't miss on this. And if you're expecting enterprise and businesses to upgrade, you have to give them something they know without retraining. So this is important. What's interesting to me is, which device is going to boot to what? Like you have the Surface Pro 3 we were just talking about. What does that boot to? Does it decide if it has the keyboard on? Does it boot to this desktop versus the screen? And if most computers still, most computers today are still laptops being sold, they're all going to boot to the desktop. Will that, does that kind of kill the momentum, not that there was much, but kill whatever momentum there was of people developing the new Metro style apps? Because how many people are actually going to see them? A lot of questions, but I think Microsoft has to do this. I think if they're going to really keep with this, ending Windows 7, XP just ended, now we're talking about Windows 7 ending, you have to give people what they need and to work. I think Microsoft seems to be moving that way and moving that way quickly. Your thoughts?
Okay. I don't mean to derail this conversation, but maybe my Surface Pro 3 was backing up to my Windows Home server. Maybe.
What?
I think maybe it was backing up.
So you might have had a
huge bandwidth issue.
A bandwidth issue
out of the machine itself.
That would make sense.
That would suck. That would be my fault. That would be the noob rookie podcaster doing this since 2008, not turning off his Dropbox and somebody dropping in a 4 meg MPEG into the
right,
box.
Exactly. So that's okay. So we've solved that problem for now.
So maybe no excuses. We're gonna try again next week. No excuses. So threshold, you're right. They gotta get this right out the gate, right?
I mean, there's a lot of pressure because we're seeing the Windows 8 numbers and not so pretty. One of the other things you would do is run windowed Metro apps, which compared to what I just said, will help. Maybe this will help bring some new Metro apps to the experience. You can if we'll have it in the show notes. Like in Paul's throughout the article, he had a picture of like Mail, the Metro version, modern version, Windows 8 version of Mail, running in a windowed environment in the desktop, which makes sense. If you're going to run those things. I know I'd like some of there's a couple apps I like. Mail being one of them works pretty well. We all use Tweety and we know about that works pretty well. That's about it. But I like those two apps to run in a windowed environment. And right now you could do that with Modern Mix, which I think you've used.
It does, and I was just playing with it. I use Modern Mix to window some applications, and it works for the most part. Sometimes it gets a little jicky, so
right.
it would be nice.
I would think this would work better coming right out of the box.
Correct. I think that would be a great a fix for some of these apps because I like it when I'm doing one app.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't mind popping out to like a weather screen or a radar or maybe flipping through the news or a Flipboard type application. But when I'm at my desk, I want my desktop.
Exactly.
I want my desktop. When I'm having a coffee in the morning, reading Google News or something, yeah, full page. Give me everything. I don't mind that. But like right now, I'm a power user. I need Windows. I need
Right. I mean,
different
it's still
things.
called Windows, right? And that's the kind of funny thing about this. It is called Windows. And I like having multiple things open. And you could do that in Metro, Modern, whatever we're still calling it. I don't even know anymore. But not to the extent that we like. And that, like right now, I have Windows open all over in front of me. I have the chat room, I have the notes, I have the Hangout window,
You
nice
got
and one little
tabs going on. You got Tweetium. Yeah.
right on one 14-inch laptop, and it's running great, and I can do it. Can't do that in the modern interface. So this is something they have to do.
You could. They
I
would
mean,
just be slivers about this thick,
I mean,
all along your
anytime someone
screen.
asks me to place an order for a new PC within a business, I just order Windows. I just make sure it comes with Windows 7, and most of the big OEMs will do that for you, especially if you order through the business channels. Um, it just it works. There is that. It's not broken. The problem with PCs isn't the PC. It's that there's competing other sources that can almost do some of the same jobs, not all the same jobs. So just stay good at what don't throw away what you're good at to try to gain some momentum somewhere else. And I think that's kind of was a problem with Windows 8 launch. They're trying to be the one, and that's the joke, right? The everything, the one device everything, like the Surface Pro 3. That's the thing. And it's not a good enough tablet. It's not a good enough Ultrabook. It's kind of good at both, not great at either. I think that's the best way to describe Windows 8. It's okay as a tablet. It's okay if you're using the desktop, but not great at it either. Where Windows 7, most people would say, was great at being a desktop. So hopefully this brings back some of that, but allows more growth for those touchscreens. If you have an 8-inch Dell, you really don't want the desktop. So I hope we kind of see some movement on there to make the tablet experience better too. Even if it's running the same backend, the users don't have to know that. I think that's where we have to get to, where the users don't. And we'll talk about the Surface Mini in a second, but there's such different devices. I've been using a Nexus device for, and you realize it does what it needed to do well. I don't want this to be my laptop. And that's the problem with like the Dell, the 8-inch. It was like it has a desktop in there. To do some control panel stuff, I have to go to my desktop. Something's just not right about this. The whole feeling of it. So I think Microsoft's addressing this. It's been a controversial issue. I know. Listen, there are a lot of people who invest their careers in, you're an MVP, right? And a lot of Windows MVPs and a lot of developers out there who say, okay, I've been with Microsoft since 1987 or 1993, and I've created apps and I've built my business on them. And Windows 8's here, we're going to build our apps there. And now it's like, wait, we're going backwards again. So you're going to have some people who were upset, but if you look at the numbers, I think they have no choice.
I think I think the 8-inch form factor as a single app at a time, kind of like uh, how the iPad and how Android does it. I think that works.
Hmm.
I mean, I was kind of geeked for the Mini
Right,
to do that function
right.
as it stands. I wouldn't use a desktop on it. I wouldn't load, try to do anything funky. I didn't. I mean, I tried things on that Dell Venue Pro 8, but I just to try it. But yeah, it's too small, way too small.
It's too small, and it's funny. I think that's one of the reasons the Mini was pulled. I think from all the reports, and we can kind of mix that story into this, I guess now.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think they're right. I think
I agree. Don't do
perhaps
it
they
unless it's
didn't
perfect.
differentiate enough. It was just another 8-inch tablet.
Well, this one was going to be an RT tablet. We don't have any of those.
True,
So in
and
that way,
perhaps it did have a
and it,
better
and it had the Surface Pro 3 pen function.
right.
So I think in that way it would have been good, but you know, anyway, the rumor is, and again, it seems many have agreed with this story. Uh, when the Surface Pro 3 launched, that was supposed to be the Surface Mini launch as well. The actual invitation that went out to their journalists said, "Come to a small gathering or join us for a small gathering." Last second, like days before, apparently someone pretty high up, whether it was Nadella or someone else, we don't know, pulled it and said it's not ready yet. One of the reasons being apparently that Touch Office wasn't ready. And I think they're 100% right, because having an 8-inch device where you have to use Office for desktop is going to be a quite a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think I don't think it was days. I do think it was weeks.
but the
I
invitation was 2 weeks before, so
I
with
think
okay,
so. I think
14 days. So
that
within the
invitation
14
ran
days.
through the channel
Mhm.
just like normal, It ran through the big wheels. I need somebody to design something, and that's what they came up with the little catchphrase.
Okay, pretty close to the event. They pulled it.
Yeah, there was no way to pull that back out, and then all of a sudden, yeah, I don't think it was days. I do think it was weeks, and
Okay, weeks
I
before.
think I think there was some confusion within Microsoft itself about the device itself.
And to be honest, I was kind of intrigued because one of the features, the Surface Pro 3, I think the note-taking aspect and the pen, the click, I think that on an 8-inch device would be awesome.
Oh, I was geeked for it.
I think that would be awesome. But I can also see that you're going to tell these people you have Office and they have to launch Word and it's running in a
I
desktop
was so
environment.
geeked for it. Even 2 or 3 weeks prior, I
Mhm.
was talking with you guys saying, I need a solution, an
Right.
instant solution.
And the pen works
I
great in the
want to go
Surface Pro
to.
3.
What's that?
And the pen works great in the Surface Pro 3. So if it contained that same digitizer and you're able to really
And
take
it's the
notes on
button
it.
push. That's the
Mhm.
key.
Yeah,
I
right.
needed an instant. I
Hmm.
don't need find the Windows button, press that. Well, that didn't work, so hit the power key. Okay, 2 seconds. Okay, fine. It booted fast. Flip it up. Type in my password. Start screen. Find the icon. Tap the icon. I've already lost my train of thought. I don't even know what I wanted to write down at this point, but not with this button on this pin. If you just hit
Right.
that and it comes up to an app.
And what's interesting is at the time we heard there were these thousands of these already done that are now sitting in a warehouse somewhere. And this was the second time this launch was held. So you're talking, it's supposed to be last fall, right? So now we're 7, 8 months into this same hardware. And now yesterday there was a tweet from Evan, whatever his last name, EvLeaks, EV Leaks on Twitter,
Even leaks.
who has a pretty good track record to the point where the real journalists pay attention to him. He came out and said that Surface Mini is back in production and it's coming out this summer. Later in the day, Mary Jo Foley went in contact, got her source at Microsoft, said no, that's not the case. Given that we're pretty sure at this point that Touch Office, which is Gemini, the Gemini version of Office, which will run your Touch environment, is not really close to ready yet. I don't see what would have changed to make that happen. And now they're still talking about a spring 2015 release. So if that's the case, you can't sell the same hardware, can you? I mean, not that you're going to be talking 18 months from the original date of this hardware release to launch something. You got to just dump those and start over. You can't. I can't
That's gotta be a
imagine.
tough.
I
That's
mean,
gotta be a tough pill
that
to
would be
swallow.
nuts. So anyway, so from people, if reading the tea leaves, I would guess we're still talking about spring 2015 release, and I'm
Here's
guessing
the
it's gonna be new
here's the thing
hardware.
that I was thinking. I mean, this box was supposedly ready
Mhm.
for last December, right?
Right, last fall, right, the fall launch,
On a Qualcomm chipset that was released
the spring before.
months prior.
Right, you're talking
And
two
now it's
years.
come all the way back around. I mean, there are watches being released, and granted, they're clocking them down with newer Qualcomm chipsets. So, yeah, I think even that comes into play, and you just say, yeah, you dump those boxes. I think literally maybe they even burned them somewhere, so
I
they
said
would not get out into
they
the.
put them in the ditch they dug up the Ataris from, maybe.
No, no, because those were found.
Oh yeah, those were found.
Those were found. You cannot do that. You cannot go back to Alamogordo. Was it Alamogordo? Where was
I
it?
think so. I don't even
I don't
know.
know.
Dig them up, put them back in. Um, it's still intriguing to me. I'd love to see more RT devices, as I think, especially in the tablet space, especially in the 8-inch space. I understand the sandboxed environment of Windows RT. I understand why you do it. If you use a PC or a laptop all day and you slow down and you're running extensions and you're running add-ins and plugins and all the stuff that we run on our computers every day, and it slows down your machine and this and that. There's certain things you don't want on your tablet, and that's something that Windows RT does very well. So we want Windows RT. That's why I was really excited for an 8-inch RT device because no one else is making them. That's why I tried them. I'm not a fan of the 8-inch Windows Atom-based tablets because I think they just don't make any sense. I don't want to be able to run what you can run on just on a 1 gig device.
Hmm.
So I was hoping, and and there is the talk, and I guess it's kind of when all this happens, the Windows 9 stuff, Windows Phone 9 at that point, and Windows RT are going to share a lot more in common. So Windows, the tablets might take on more of the phone look on the 8-inch side than the desktop look. Windows RT, as well, another link in here. I guess it all merges together. Rumors are that with the Windows RT devices are going to be branded Lumia, not Surface. So any ARM-based machine would be called a Lumia. So that's another thing. So does that mean the next Surface that like the Surface 3 would be in this fall, right? I'd assume that means it would be an Atom-based processor, and we'd be going Atom-based for Surface 3, and the Intel Broadwell, whatever the next one is, would be the Pro. I think that seems to be the route they're going, and not sure I'm on board with that. I don't know if Lumia has, in North America especially, doesn't. I'm not going to talk for the rest of the world because can't do that, but some people like to. In North America, Surface might be positive or negative. Actually, people know what it is from all those commercials. I don't think Lumia has that same pull. So changing your RT tablets over to Lumia, not sure that's going to fix your problems. But it led me to something else, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, which I think is where we're going, and which will bring in the hate mail, I'm sure. And no,
I'm
I think some
sure.
people,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I need to pay attention to this EV Leaks guy a little more. I
Hmm.
mean, I
He's
thought this
legit, by
guy
the way.
only tweeted, just bam the leak. No,
Right.
he's having conversation now. I think
Yes. Well, he's
he's
turned
saying,
himself into a brand.
yeah, he's personified this thing.
And it seems, I mean, judging by the type of leaks he has, it seems he has some contact over at the manufacturer, like the places where a lot of these devices are put together, I would say. And that's where a lot of the iPhone leaks come from these days too, and that kind of stuff. Foxconn and whoever else is making these devices, and some of the chat room just said they can't buy Lumineers released 12 months ago in Canada. Yeah, I see Canada, by the way, has been kind of screwed by this whole Windows Phone thing over the last year. That's another issue. 930, 1520, they're all just still waiting for all of them.
Well, I okay. I'm gonna have to. I think I follow this guy, but I'm gonna have
Right.
to pay more attention. Maybe I need to put a rule or an if this then that or something.
So,
Um, but
so,
oh,
so what do you think though of the naming?
oh
Getting
well, let's just say Mary Jo's right. EV Leaks is wrong.
well, that's
Um,
on the mini part that we're waiting until 2015.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right. Um, the branding. I mean, how does it strike you?
I just
Surface as a pro device,
right.
Lumia as a
Like
tablet.
consumption.
Let's say a
Yeah.
tablet.
Right. But the Surface is still advertising as a tablet. I mean, it does
I
everything
know, I
right.
know,
But
but they're gonna have to differentiate these things because to me this is a pro device, right?
hmm I agree. And but
Because when I think Lumia, I don't I don't think big Surface Pro looking things. I
but what
think
about what about right? Exactly.
little things that go in my pocket.
Now, what about an 8-inch tablet or 10-inch RT tablet?
I think a Lumia brand would be fine.
Okay. And what about a Surface 3 running? I guess at that point, have to run Atom, or else I can't use the name Surface.
It would muddy the waters if they ran Atom. I don't think. Do you think they're ever gonna have an Atom?
Yeah, I think the Surface 3 will be an Atom.
You think it'll be, but
If
running
they do this naming convention where all RT devices have to be Lumia, I think that would set you up for the Surface, unless you just keep Surface Pro and no Surface. But I don't think they'll do that. They need a little lower end model because you can't call it a Surface anymore if it's running RT, running ARM.
I think they need to differentiate it.
So put an
I don't know
Atom,
that they will
right?
because it seems obvious.
See, my thought process was, and this is way out there, so before you send me your things, a little bit
All
out
right,
there.
all right.
we
I'm ready.
it's pretty much, Bloomberg had the story, a lot of others had the story that when the Ballmer was going to purchase Nokia, there were some very vocal people against the purchase, Satya Nadella being one of them. Apparently Bill Gates was not for it, now running the company, and they say they came around on it, and of course you have to say that is Nadella, and he's talked about many times that Bill Gates is now more active in his ear giving some advice. Um, Building up the Lumia brand. Build up the phone brand, add some tablets in it, build up the brand, and spin it back off to somebody else. And you can keep Surface, because Microsoft is still on the Surface, right? So you spin off Lumia, and you can kind of start getting out of the hardware business. And that would also explain why we're seeing, the second version of the Android, the Nokia X, right? The Nokia X2 now. Other rumors, which I guess we can talk about now, that EV-Leaks had as well, and those rumors were not put to rest yesterday, was that there's going to be Lumia Android phones, so higher-end Android phones. So if that's the case,
Wait, you started with Satya doesn't want to buy Nokia.
right? So now he has it. How do you get rid of it?
Got to work it in.
Or at least he's trying to build it as a viable brand on its own, and
Right.
don't care if it's Windows Phone or Android. I mean, if you're going to put, I mean, I understand the lower end phones, right? You want to put some Android on there and just have some services. But if you're going to start putting Android on your Lumia devices, and this is not the other rumor, this is actually an Android device. And we don't know if it's going to be Google Mobile Services or the Bing services. I assume it would be the Bing one, but I don't know. But maybe I think they're trying to build the Lumia brand into something, and maybe they're doing it just as a brand. We'll own Lumia, and we don't care. They'll all run Microsoft services, all good for us. But or just spin it off. The Google tried getting in this game with Motorola, and they said, okay, this is not for us. We'll just keep making the software. Who wants it? And Lenovo bought it. I could see something similar happening. And it might not be a bad thing, by the way, because they got a lot more OEMs on board for Windows Phone in the last 6 months. Maybe some of those OEMs said, hey, get out of this game, and we'll make phones for you. There's a lot out there, and I think one of the big issues is you don't know. There's not enough answer. There's a lot of rumors, and I think a lot of the rumors is just filling an empty vacuum because you're not hearing a lot out of Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Some engineer went on Chris Perillo's stupid YouTube channel and said you're going to see something earth-shattering coming to Windows Phone, and now we think you'll be able to run Android apps on your Windows Phone in Linux VMs because that works so well for BlackBerry.
Again, that's just filling the void, right?
Right, but that's another one that these were. What's interesting to me is this: as soon as the Surface Mini thing came out yesterday, the people who follow Microsoft, as they call themselves Microsoft watchers, went out, got quotes, dispelled these rumors. The other rumors put out by the same guy, right? The Android rumor plus the running Android apps put out by the same guy. No one at Microsoft would say they weren't true.
Yeah, maybe those are a little. I mean, but those are far-fetched. Those.
You think people have been talking about running Android apps
I
on
know.
Windows, that
It's
tablets and
possible. We all
phones.
know it's possible.
Right. But does that even fix their? And even Peter Bright, Dr. Pizza on Twitter, he writes for Ars Technica today on Twitter, said, "Arg, it looks like I'll be writing more about Android apps on Windows phones." And Tom Warren put something similar yesterday. It seems to be becoming like the accepted medicine. And that would make sense. That would be big news, right? I don't know why an engineer would go on Chris Perillo's show to tell him, but hey, that's besides the point. And these are credible. This EV-Leaks in the past has been right about most stuff. Not everything, right? But he's been right about a lot.
Yeah, but getting a screenshot of the LG G3,
Mhm.
2 months ago, is different than saying, okay, Windows Phone's going to switch over to Android.
Well, he's not saying it's going to switch over. Well, there's two leaks. There was one leak saying they're going to release some Android, Lumia higher-end Android devices, like the Nokia X stuff, but higher-end hardware. That's one. The second one was that all Windows Phone devices would be able to run Android apps. So they'd have an app store. BlackBerry 10 does this with the most recent release actually can run everything from any apps 4.0 and higher. Before that was some older stuff. I think they're doing it through the Amazon App Store. I'm not sure. Uh, but so you're able to run Android apps, and it runs in a virtual machine on your phone. Again, not sure how that's going to help anything. I don't think it'll help the developer issue because developers will be like, I'll just make the Android app. Um, but it's credible because even people we watch and follow have talked about when people at Microsoft talk about doing this on the Surface tablets for the last year or two and on phones. While it's never said they're going to do it, it's been in the rumor mill for a while. So I could see them trying it as a last, because the app thing's not working. Even the apps they're getting, and if some of you want to go back, you can look through my Twitter profile from about a week ago. I think it's right before our show last week, actually. We're supposed to be. I was involved in quite a Twitter stream with. It started with Daniel Rubino from WP Central, Rudy Yun, I don't know how to pronounce his name, made a Tinder app, and Tinder said, no, you can't make a Tinder app, and had it pulled down. And some Windows Phone people are mad because Tinder doesn't make an app. And it led into this whole discussion about apps and all that. Even the apps Windows Phone is getting, like, you have the icon there, right? Look at Instagram. Instagram is still in beta. It's been close to a year now. I think it's been out. It has to be close to that by now. Still in beta, missing a lot of features, including the fact that if I send you a private Instagram message right now, a picture, you're not going to get it. You're not even going to know I sent it to you. There's the Nokia. Take a picture of him. He's going to put it on Instagram now. The Twitter app today got updated. And it's still, I mean, they finally got inline images, right, in Twitter. And Twitter is one of the apps that came up in the conversation. Twitter doesn't even make the Twitter app. Apparently, Microsoft's paying Twitter to hire a third party to make their app. So even if they're getting the apps, they're really, and I wrote about this on my own blog, they're really kind of half-baked and not coming together. So maybe they are getting a little desperate. I don't know. The numbers a couple days last week came out on Windows Phone, doing okay in some of the EU countries. They're actually falling in the US. They're falling in China, which is supposed to be their big push. So they have to do something. So maybe throwing in Android app stores, that's something. What's the old saying? Throwing stuff at the fan. So, and let's talk about and you've now had your icon for about a month, right? It's about a month.
Have I had it that long?
It has to be because you only had a show 3 weeks ago. You had it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I've had it for quite some time.
You've had the icon for a month. What's your thought on using the device?
Okay, when I first got it, they've done something to it because performance has improved. I don't know what. Maybe it's just
updates. Maybe okay.
I don't know. Maybe it was the last little update that they sent out, the 8.1 preview update. But now I can hit the button and wake the phone generally in a good, reasonable amount of time. I do like that.
That's fixing.
What's that?
So that got fixed.
Well, it seems very trivial, but that drove me just nuts to hit that button and to wait 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's a preview, and I understand that. I prefer the physicalness of the phone over the Android phone that I have. I prefer the front interface of the Windows phone interface. I like the live tiles. I would like a little bit more interactivity with them, like on a podcast player. It would be cool to have a little widget tile, so I can get to it, because that's one of the crazy things that I do not like about it. If you're listening to a podcast on your Windows phone and it's turned off, you can hit your power button and your drawer will pop down with play, fast forward, and rewind. But there's nothing else. That's your one chance to get to that podcast or music. If you slide open and unlock, it's gone.
Use the volume key.
Yeah, okay, true. You can get to that, but there's no like widgetry within the app. Like I need a
Right,
30-second skip, right?
right, right.
I'm unlocking it so I can get past an ad. Um, so a little bit of widgetry would be nice to be built in, but I Windows Phone people, they get it. They don't. It's okay. We like what is in front of us, and we can
Love the
deal with.
interface, love the hardware.
Yeah, we can deal with some of these things um, behind the scenes. It's no big deal. Um, I don't compare to iOS. I have an Android phone. I swap SIMs back and forth. Um, there's I used to, I left Android for iOS and then went back to Android and then Windows Phone. I just bounce everywhere.
So you've used them all. I mean,
I have. I mean, honestly, I use it all. Man, Android does some things right with Google now. I'm just telling you.
it's awesome. It's awesome.
The way to get in and get information quickly, I
Hmm.
can I can smoke anybody, especially Siri, with getting information. I can do it fast. I wish Cortana was up to that level. But I hope it gets to that level. Um, okay. The biggest thing I would tell you, and I do this Windows Phone rant every 6 months
Yeah,
when I
whenever you use them.
switch
Whenever you use
when
them.
I switch back and forth. People have this thing about you have to make the app Windows style, right?
Right.
You have to put those big letters at the top and be able to swish back and forth. You know, I like that, but I don't need that. I make the app how you want to make it. Make it fit the way it should fit because the podcast app of choice, which I use, Podcast Lounge.
I like that. I think the best
Yeah, but
podcast
when
app
I
I've used.
bring it up,
Hmm.
I have to slide over and hit the now playing. So I have to open the app, slide now playing. So that's
Right.
3 taps. I mean,
Instead of
honestly,
the
yeah, that's a mess. I think app builders should feel free to build their layouts the way they want without feeling stuck within this Windows Phone. Uh, I don't even know what you want to call it. This
design, the design,
API.
the design.
Yeah, I don't feel like held to that.
Right. And
And I say that
to
because I
be
use
fair, all the companies, Apple, Google, Microsoft, they're all trying to do that. Google just made a big deal of their new whatever material design, whatever they're calling it for the new version of Android, iOS system. But you could still do what you want. It's just kind of like we'd like you to do it X way. And most of that stuff's where to put the menu and stuff like that. In the podcast app, it should have the now playing like Pocket Cast does, right in the bottom, right? Like you see what's going on right in the bottom of your screen if it's playing.
yeah, and I say that because I use several apps that have finally come together on iOS and Android, and they're like they gel now. It's like an iOS version releases, an Android version releases, and
Right.
they're the same, and they work, and they're great.
And that's
So
also provides for them as a brand, right? They want that as well. Like if you're, I know like Instagram, for example. Instagram looks the same on whichever one you pick up because they want the Instagram brand or Facebook or
well, they don't
whatever.
have to rewrite their documentation either.
Right, that too.
Everything
Right.
they write is touch dashboard, click things, click the
Hmm.
gear, boom, you're in settings. Okay, I'm talking about home automation with smart things. It's the same.
I knew you were talking about something specific.
No matter where you're at, it's the same. So,
And
but
what about just using it day to day compared to using, you went from your LG G2 to the
correct.
930 and now kind of back to the G2, but using the 930, kind of like what I do with my
I'm back.
1520.
I am back and forth. again, I prefer the phone. Isn't that weird
No,
that
I
it's
think the hardware's great.
that it's I prefer the phone that is only used by three, has a 3 maybe 4% market share. Um, of course there's things I want improved. Of course. Of course I want the apps. Someone did an app study, what was it, last week or early
Yeah,
this, and
yeah.
they showed all the top 25 iOS apps and all the the top 25 Windows Phone apps, and it was just it was it was apples to oranges, honestly, not to put a bad pun out there, but because that iOS list changes just day to day. I mean, it changes.
There's new
It
stuff every day.
moves and
Mostly
it grows.
games too.
And the top 25 list on Windows Phone never changes.
Hmm.
It's always those Nokia
Instagram,
apps.
Wikipedia, for
It's
some reason.
always those top Nokia apps. You go out there and look, and it's the same. I'll go look now. But I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think Marketplace is ever going to level out for this platform. That's that's being pretty negative, but I just don't think that it's going to.
I agree. And 6 months ago, a year ago, I actually thought 24. I thought we'd start to see, and we talked about, Windows Phone would be the third. It's okay to be number three, but I thought they'd be a much stronger number three at this
Yeah.
point. There you go. Those
This
don't change.
list
Yeah.
right here, top free,
Yeah. If Pandora is still your, yeah. Well.
has not
Uh,
moved a
yeah.
lot. Has not
Um,
moved a lot. Mixed radio, Nokia,
and,
Messenger,
and you're talking the
weather,
software stuff. Yeah, exactly.
gear,
The
WhatsApp,
and
Nokia,
and so many
Skype.
of these, and even these apps, they don't even work well. That's my biggest gripe. It's like, um, it's not just the apps. It's one thing to get the apps, and you want all the apps, and you want the big names. But you also want them to care about the app and to make the app and to make it work. And especially like these big launches we're hearing, whether it was Path, which I don't know why it was a big launch, but whatever. Instagram, uh, and what else? Flipboard, we're still waiting for, was promised to build a year ago. Uh, except when these come out, it's like, Instagram released something called Instagram Beta. Just think about what version they're on the other devices. It's just not worth it. And a lot of people are like, oh, they're just trying to screw Microsoft. They hate us. They don't care about their users. A lot of these app companies, and since we were just talking about Tinder and they had their other issues going on right now, I think someone said, I think they're 5 guys, 5 programmers. So you have 5 people doing your apps, right? And you have iOS, which, okay, it's pretty straightforward. You have Android. I think it was Robert Scoble last week said he was in the Flipboard office, and they have to test over 100 different Android devices for all their apps, due to versions and screen sizes and OEM skins and all that stuff. So you're 5 guys, and now you have to say, okay, where are we going to put our resources? A lot of these app companies, they're not Facebook yet. Even Facebook, by the way, that app is made by Microsoft, and I think that tells you something. And Messenger, which works on Windows Phone, and I'm very happy to have it, still is not as smooth as it is on the other devices. A lot of times I launch the app and I get a white screen, I have to close out and go back in. Um, I just, you're not seeing that same, and again, it's pretty much, if you're Microsoft, you're paying these companies and offering, a lot of these companies are rejecting their offer, by the way, that's another issue. Microsoft will pay you to make the app, or pay you to go to a third party and they'll make the app for you. And if you're having a third party make it, it's not going to be the same as making yourself. That's how they just made the Dunkin' Donuts app. I guess was the big one that came out that third party made. Twitter apparently is made by a third party. We know Facebook's made by Microsoft, says right publisher. Path, and I found this when they were putting the Path beta up. It was made by a company up in Montreal that has nothing to do with Path. You're starting to see just doesn't work, doesn't cohesive. When you launch that app on your Windows Phone, something feels broken way too many times. That's my biggest issue. If you go in there and click the Messenger app, Dave, and then click Messenger on your G2, sorry. Might slip it. Yes, he's a tester for G3. It's just, you'll notice a difference, and I agree. I love the Metro modern interface of the phone. I like the hardware. I had the 1520. I was trying to use it as my only phone for a while. Um, it just can't do it. It's just missing. First of all, it's missing too many, especially business side apps. Um, but it was just certain things I couldn't count on, and it's come a long way. 8.1 is a huge leap forward.
Absolutely.
I want to
Well,
give I want to give the people doing the phone credit because the actual software, Cortana, in some ways, I mean, it's much better than Siri is, and that's and it's not quite where Google now is, but it's on that track, more of that, and in some ways more private, and you could do some of the settings are better than Google now. You can customize it a little easier. Um, Really, the notification center is a start, but the issue there is now you have Android, which started making kind of responsive notifications last year, 2 years ago, and now iOS is adding those in the fall with iOS 8, where if someone tweets at you right from the notification center, you hit reply and you reply. Same with Facebook Messenger. So again, it's like it's playing catch up. They finally have the notification center, but they have to get that next step, and you just can't always be a step behind. At some point, you got to say, we'll put all our resources into this and get it done. If it takes doubling our team for the next year, we'll double the team. It takes tripling. If you're that committed to it, a company the size of Microsoft, that's what you do. And you don't see them doing that. And I think it's the same thing you're seeing with the tablet side. Um, we have Office for iOS. It's out now. The Office for iPad. You have Office for Android, which is out on the phones. It's
mhm.
coming to tablet very soon in the fall. I think it was. It was announced, and they're still working on Office for Windows RT or the Windows tablet version, touch version. Um, and some people saying it's because they have more features than the iOS version. That's all well and good, but if it's that important, you're a company the size of Microsoft. You say, how many people do you need to get this done quicker? We'll launch on iOS, we'll launch on Android, but we also want to launch on Windows, at least in the same time period, at least in the same galaxy of a time period. How many people do you need to get this done? And you get it done. That's what companies do. You have a deadline next week, and three people sitting there working 24 hours a day, and they're struggling. You say, how many more people do I need to give you for the week to get it done by next week? And you say, okay, I need five. Here are your five guys. Use them. Get it done. That's
Yeah,
so.
and
If
I
it was
think
that important, I just don't think
I
it's that
figured
important.
out this passion, Darren, and a lot of this is misdirected to some of our listeners,
Mm.
where they feel like maybe I'm a little hard on the system, uh,
You're hard. Oh,
too often, and it's like I want to carry this device and I want to use it
I'm the
24/7.
same. Ask my wife. I drive her
I
nuts
know
switching to
you.
SIM.
I know every day you're like, yeah, I'm still on this 1520. I really like this. I it's genuine. I hear it. I know
Right.
a lot of people don't hear that, via your Twitter feed or sometimes on this podcast, but it's it's frustrating that you want, so much for this platform and you want it to catch up very fast, and it's just physically not possible. We have to have patience, and I feel like we have had patience, and I've jumped into this platform many times,
Right. I
and
mean,
I used it. I had a 900, a 920, the 928. I had a 925 for a day. I sold it, and then here I am with the 930, the Icon. Um,
I had the Palm Trio the first day around the Windows Mobile when they switched over from Palm. I ordered that from AT&T that
okay,
day.
well I've had Windows Mobile.
Right,
That
the
was
Windows, but that's the deal, right? So
okay.
we had the Windows Mobile devices and the 900, right? The 900, I had the 900 as well, the 920 as well, and
And
now the
yeah,
1520. I've had the
I
520 sitting
want
around here somewhere.
more app drawer. I need, like on Android, and I don't want to compare, but yeah, you get an
Well, that's
email. It tells you, and then I can delete it from that drawer.
hmm
I can reply to it, text. It's more efficient, and I know they know this, and I know they have it on a roadmap, and the app drawer it'll come. Web developers they'll catch up, but then iOS and Android will still be
two
two
steps
years
ahead.
ahead on the next greatest thing. They'll be doing something different. So it's a horrible game of catch up. But
It is, and that's why sometimes you have to play that catch-up game, like I said, by loading up to get things done, and by coming up, as Tablet Junkie in the chat room just said, by loading up on the next killer feature, right? Like Cortana was, that's the thing being advertised everywhere. You see it everywhere, and it's all well and lights flickering. Sorry, it's all well and good. That Cortana's coming and all that, and Cortana's a killer feature. You walk into the Microsoft store, there's all the big things are Cortana. First of all, most of your phones don't have it yet. So that's another issue. It's still Cortana is playing catch up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it does a few things differently. But it's a little scary when you are the small guy, right? You're the 3% in the North America. Was getting close to 4, now he pulled back to 3, so the shirt still survives. You're supposed to be able to say, hey, we've had the largest year-over-year growth, even if it's just marketing cruff, because you had that small number. You can't even do that anymore. Like, it's gotten to the point now where it's just stagnant, and of course we're coming from a U.S. market, so I know we people listen all over. Right now, on AT&T, which is always their big player, they're selling in the stores the 925, the 9 and 1020 in the normal, what I would call your normal phone size range. There's not been a phone release for now a year and a half, over a year.
I was gonna say there's been a big gap.
In the normal, the 1520 is on there, and that's the one I have. But that's a phablet. That's not for everybody. T-Mobile just is getting apparently the 1525, which is a version of the 1520.
Well, we've long said too that they've got to stop putting out these super high-end.
Right.
They have to stop with this 1020 and this 1520 stuff and get a phone and put it across the network.
Well, there it is, the 930.
Icon on Verizon, a 930 on AT&T.
Get it right. There it is. That's the phone. As much as I like the 1520, it's a huge beast of a phone. That's not for everybody. No. But if you're you want to go into the store and say, hey, I want the high-end Windows phone, and you don't want the beast, there's nothing in AT&T, T-Mobile, Sprint. Verizon has the Icon. Right now we're starting to see the 630 and 635, which are the newer lower-end models, and that's all well and good, and they'll probably sell decently, right, for $149 and $249. Around the world, the Icon's finally starting to get released, and it's months later. Canada, we talked about before, is missing. They're getting nothing. These are markets that matter. China is a big growth market for them and not growing. A lot of it, there's big gaps in the hardware. I mean, the fact there hasn't been the next version of the 920. We're now working on, 20 months from the 920. The 920, 925, 928, whatever, that realm of phone, that genre of phone. You're talking 20 months since the 920 was released, which was when Windows 8 was released, and there's been nothing. There's been nothing of the 4.5 to 5-inch phone.
Yeah, well, this can obviously be attributed to this takeover, this purchase.
But they have all these other. I mean, they still came out to 1520. They came out to 930. It's just not in the U.S. This is carrier deal stuff.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
And that doesn't help. So that's another issue on top of the. Those are just more issues they're having. And I think also we're starting to see, last year the biggest Windows phone you saw was the 520 and 525, which were like they were $100 and they were $70 and they're $50. And the 520 is still a great media player. You can stick an SD card in there for $50. I think it was $44 today on Amazon, by the way.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this out for you. I'm gonna throw a conversation piece that I'm gonna hit Darren with, and I want to talk in the forums about this. Okay, this phone right here, this 930. I'm just saying if this thing could run native Windows Phone apps and it could run Android apps in a decent manner. I'm not talking
have access to Notification Center.
I'm not talking like open an app and then open an Android app and then no, I'm talking about run it. I'm hypothesizing here that Windows Phone makes another transition into a new, piece of software here. This takes a big update here. My dream phone here. Okay. If this thing could run Android apps and still be a Windows phone, I mean, would this be your daily driver? Would you carry it?
I mean, I'd really have to see how those Android apps run, but I'd probably say no, because if I want to run all Android apps, I'll just run an Android phone because they're going to run better in the Android phone than they are on no matter what they do. Um, and I think in the long run, it hurts the Windows Phone platform because it gives a lot of developers an easy out to say, I don't need to develop for your 4% platform. Just use my Android app.
Right.
Um, so I think, but I
Maybe
think,
if you need direct hardware access or something, you run in a Windows Phone environment.
right, right.
I mean, my answer would be yes. I mean, because
I,
of the
I'd have
hardware.
to see how it runs. And here's the thing too. How do they do this? I'm assuming it would have to be the Nokia version of the App Store, that Nokia X, whatever they're calling their App Store for the Nokia X, which doesn't have many apps, by the way, so I don't know what that really fixes. Um, that's another issue. Because I can't imagine. First of all, they can't use the Google Play Store. You can't. Maybe Amazon. Maybe they can make a deal with Amazon to get the Amazon store on there, which would be better at least. They have a little bigger app store. Um, and I
You
think
got to do
Amazon uses
something with
a lot of the
these
Bing
things.
services. What?
The devs aren't gonna. I mean, are the developers gonna recompile and throw in a
They're
switch
still
for
going to have to do that. They're still going to have to
three
recompile
percent?
for Bing services and all that for the Nokia X stuff. So that's why I don't know what this really helps.
It's a
Unless they're going to teach people how to sideload apps.
that's a tough road to hoe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would like it. I would like it.
I mean, would you like it for today's? Now, before you talked about how you want to see this platform survive and you like the phone and all that. Do you? What do you think? How do you think that affects the Windows Phone brand? And BlackBerry 10 tried this, by the way. You can, like we said before, and they have 3 new phones coming out, by the way.
I I don't know. They're at a very very tough spot. They're at a
I
tough
mean,
spot where I mean it was usage spiking up, but it was on
low
less
end,
stellar hardware and
right?
then and not key markets for that. I mean, their key markets are the Americas and Europe.
And a lot of people responded to me on Twitter and said, "Hey, stop being, it doesn't matter about the U.S. They're doing well here and there. Here's why it matters about the U.S. First of all, Microsoft's based here, but 2, most of the apps where people are complaining about daily, most of those apps are based here.
Yeah,
And
it does
it,
matter because I'm not going to get my Smart Things app,
well, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's for you. I'm just
released
saying for
for
the platform in
Portugal.
general. I'm talking about the platforms in general. Platform in
Yeah.
general. Silicon Valley is still in California. Uh, New York now has all like Mashable and all those companies. A lot of these app companies, even if you need these people to see the device and say, hey, you know what? I've seen a lot more Windows phones lately. We have to work on the app here. And like I said, the 520 last year was their big. The 525 was their big seller. If you look at the usage stats that get released, I think it's Ad Duplex every month. They're huge. But in the last year, one thing you've seen is Android. They're lower end Android devices now in that same ballpark of price. They're actually good because before they were awful. I mean, the old, whatever company made them, Pantech and all those were awful. The Motorola G, Motorola E, and they're all coming out with their own version of these phones, are really competitive in that space. So it's like they almost found their niche, and we'll see how the 630 and 635 sell. 1320 is a phablet that's a little more affordable. Um,
Yeah.
but it just, first of all, as we talked before, the naming and the numbering, but it's just, there's never that big, okay, here it is, we finally made it. Um, and honestly, I see a lot less advertising about it now. And, like I said, as long as there's silence from Microsoft, there's going to be a lot of rumors to fill that vacuum, and a lot are going to be negative because there's silence. We did hear today that GDR1, which is the first update to Windows 8 Phone 8.1, will be coming out, will be RTM in July, and should be on the dev preview in August, which again means the next version of the phone will be ready before 98.9% of the phones have 8.1. And that's a carrier issue, and Android has the same problems they're trying to fix. So I I'm not sure that the new Microsoft, I'll put that in air quotes, the what we're seeing now gives a you know what about if you use their services on any platform. And in fact, they're very, if they as long as you're paying them and if they can run the back end on Azure and you're still running Exchange and SQL Server and you're still hooking up to the Office 365 app and they'll push subs to your subscriptions on that. Hey, they're going to make more money on that, right? That's where the money is. They're not making money on what money are they really making on Windows Phone? Where does the money come in? Hardware is not going to make them much money. They're licensing Windows Phone for free now. Where aren't you better off let someone else take care of that part of it and pushing your services on there? If you still look in the iOS, the iPad store, Excel, Word, PowerPoint are always in the top 10 of paid apps, and I'm sure you'll see the same on Android when they come out there. Samsung has their Tab 4 series, and their new tablets are actually really nice and work really well. An Office on there would be really useful. And again, we saw the write-down that Microsoft had on Windows RT on the first version of Surface RT. Wouldn't it be smart just to say, you know what, we're going to give you the best experience no matter what your device is, which is what they're doing, by the way. But they're still working on their Windows mobile device. They'll never get rid of Windows desktop. But, work with the fact that let's go where the money is. And they're doing that, and I think that's why the stock market's responding. But I think we're seeing a lot of the Windows enthusiasts not be as happy because guess what? Companies have to evolve, and Microsoft was Windows for a long time. Now Microsoft's more Office. I think we're heading towards that direction where it's going to be Office and Azure and some of the back-end services. Just to build this year, one of the ironic things was having, and they made a big deal that John Gruber was there, Mr. iOS, right? Mm-hmm. He's building his app, and his app's running on Azure, and he did his talk show there with Ed Bot and all that stuff. And that's Microsoft. That's where they want to go. And we're seeing Visual Studio. You'll be able to compile apps eventually, iOS, Android, partially start developing. I know you need some other tools. That's where Microsoft wants to go. I think that's where the new regime at Microsoft seems to be taking them. So you're invested in Windows Phone. I've invested my devices all over the place here, Windows Phone devices. But they're actually making more money selling an Android device just on license on like I said, Windows Phone. What is, like I said, if it was a priority, they could say we're going to put more people on it. We'll do more, get more stuff on it. We'll make better carrier deals for you. But there's no real reason for them to do that except to make some of the diehards who we follow on Twitter and who watch the show. And thank you, by the way. Dave started the show when Surface came out, and I was in line the day Surface came out. I was, and I was at the event in New York when it launched. We were ready to go, but we're getting to the point now where 2 years later, Steve Ballmer's gone. We have yes, he was there, but it's still a new leaders. No matter what, he had to follow the other CEO. Now he gets to make the decision. The buck stops here, and I think the decisions we're seeing over the last few months point to it's not really going to be device and services. It's more software and services.
Yeah,
and for Microsoft, that's not a bad thing.
If they do change their tune, well, it's going to be interesting to see. I still support the platform. I still love the phone. I mean, it would be dangerous. It would be dangerous. I would probably change my tune if there was a phone that had a camera as good as this.
I think that's the killer feature, right? I mean, that's it. 1520, the camera on that.
Achilles heel, not killer feature.
Now, what happens if there's a Nokia Lumia, let's call it the 930X, that comes out running Android 4.5 with the Lumia camera and the Lumia camera app?
If it was on Google Play,
yeah,
that would. I think they would sell a lot of those phones.
I agree, and I think this is one of the biggest problems Windows Phone had was, Elop went to Nokia and all that, and by the time that happened, Nokia came back to Windows Phone, the 900. Nokia, about a decade ago, if not more at this point, totally killed any relationship they had with every carrier in the U.S. market. I mean, there were no more Nokia phones here, right? You never saw those N1s and N7s and N8s, and I don't even know what the rest of them are. They just didn't exist. You
Hmm.
had to go. There are people like John Dvorak who used to show off his Nokia because he used to know to go online, order them for $700. Um, but they didn't exist. I think that hurt it, and I think one of the lasting legacies, and when Bomber left, a lot of people said, hey, including me, he gets a little too much grief. That they did make more money quarter over quarter his whole tenure there. But I think we're starting to see missing on mobile for so many years. You might not have seen it last year or even this year or next year in the numbers, but I think they know what's coming, and I think that's why they have to change their tune. Um, tablets are going to outsell PCs, and everyone's going to have a phone in their hands. And the famous scene of Bomber mocking the iPhone and all that stuff, sadly might end up being his legacy. That or the Clippers finally winning a championship. But the falling behind, and we're talking about catching up, catching up, catching up. They started Windows Phone 7. We had the 900, and it was Windows 7.5, and then Windows Phone. They just started over. They even told the app developers, your apps aren't going to work.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We're gonna keep resetting, and Windows Phone 9 is gonna come out. We're gonna reset again.
They can't
And
afford another reset.
I mean, what? That's what I'm saying. Do you reset, or you say no? We're just gonna be the best. We're gonna deliver the best services on your device. Whether you're running Mac, they're starting to come out with new Mac apps. Whether you're running iOS, whether you're running Android, whether you're running Windows Phone for now, whether you're running RT, whether your iPad, your Samsung Tab, your Samsung Note, whatever you're running, we are going to deliver the best services, the best experience. We're going to give you the most secure email experience. We're still going to have the best database services. We're going to run the best backend on Azure that anyone's seen, and apparently it even runs iCloud. I mean, that's I mean, it's running on Azure. So there's nothing wrong with that from a company of Microsoft. Now, those of us who enjoy this show, and we'll still keep talking about Microsoft. Microsoft's not going anywhere. The tune of
What are
what's
they
being
going with? That's the
right. It's where
question.
they go as a company, and I think the winds are blowing. Maybe the
Yeah.
ship hasn't changed direction yet, but the sail's up and the winds are blowing, and it's blowing in a different direction, and that's okay. The stock market seems to like it, right? And they're gonna. And a lot of these phones we're seeing now, whether it's the Icon or the 1520, these are in the pipeline for a while. So we'll start to see in a year or two what's out there, because that's really when the stuff you'd be making now is out there, and where Surface takes us. And I mean, there is that mix. Do you redo your company to make the 1% of users who are what you call fanboys or enthusiasts or whatever you want to call them, depending on your point of view, make them happy so they just be quiet and go along? Or do you go where people pay? You put Word, Excel, and PowerPoint on iPads. They're in every company in the world is using iPads. Every CEO has an iPad. They're going to pay the $30, $100, whatever it is, to use that device.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't have the
And,
answer for you, man. I
oh, well,
wish I
I didn't
did.
expect you to answer it. Maybe get the CEO on here next week. If I get a guest like that
No,
on.
I
But
think everybody listening has the answers.
yeah,
They
go to
need to
the
go to the
forums and tell us what you
forums.
think.
Yeah. Or just kill me on Twitter. Go to the
Nah,
forums.
it's not negative either. I mean, it's just reality. It's just if anyone wants it to succeed, we're hosting a show called Surface Geeks. I mean, I made a comment to one, I forget if it was Ryan Block over at Engadget, when he was making a big deal he couldn't set his Surface up. It wasn't working. He hadn't turned it on in 2 years. So I called him on it. He says, that's because you're a host of a Surface Geeks enthusiast or something. We take our lumps for doing this. We wouldn't be doing
Exactly.
the show if it wasn't for what we want.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and I've kind of understood as a Windows user why you've gone from iOS over to Android now, as your second device, we'll call it, and mine as well. And that's because it's very much like the Windows we learned how to use computers on, grew up on, and still use today. The one where I can choose the default browser, the one where I can choose the default messaging app, mail app. I can change every living setting, every
Yeah. Yeah,
icon,
well, this is
anything you want,
crazy for you.
just like you can on Windows.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the
Absolutely.
two of them fit together. I mean, the it's a shame the companies don't fit together uh, as a user, because that would help both on Windows Phone and on Android. But Microsoft's throwing all their stuff on Android. I mean, you know, you go into the file picker, file chooser on Android now, right? You go to open a file, and you have your Google Drive there and all that stuff. But guess what? I have OneDrive there. I have Dropbox there. They're able to build it right into the Google, lets them build it right into their open thing. Try that on Windows Phone. It's like OneDrive, or it's going to be a real pain in the you know what. Same in iOS. True good luck. So that's why I've been the more I use it, it's like, hey, this just makes sense as a Windows user. We like having choice. We like having 9 million versions of Notepad to download.
Right.
Notepad plus plus is my Notepad of choice on my laptop. Um, so I think Windows Phone was like the opposite. Windows Phone was almost like the Apple version, a lockdown device. Um, so I think I think Windows Phone has to become more like Windows. Maybe not totally open and crazy like Android, but a happy medium somewhere. Don't be. They're very iOS-like, and we've seen John, who's on the show tonight, a couple of months ago, sent me a link to. There was a developer trying to develop a streaming music app for Windows Phone, and he was trying. And this guy was trying and trying and trying, and he just gave up. He said between the APIs and there's streaming limits and the buffer limits, he said it's just impossible. And Windows 8.1, I'm sure maybe will solve some of those issues. Some of the caps change, not all of them.
All
But if
right.
you're
Well, I'm
going
gonna tell you
to
one more
lock
thing.
it down,
I'll say
make
Android
sure.
one more time, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
I've got a phone inbound that I'm
Ooh.
going to test, and it's a real hard phone to get a hold of.
The
And
X.
I'll have one in my hands tomorrow. And I know all you Windows Phone guys are gonna like roll over in your chair. It is the I don't even know what to call it. The one net plus. What's it called, Darren?
Oh, the One Plus, I think it
The
is.
One Plus.
That looks kind of awesome. This
One Plus. Running
cyanogen,
Cyanogen.
yeah,
Right.
cyanogen their phone.
So I've got one of those coming tomorrow, and I'm gonna put it head to head with what I have. I've got an Icon and I've got a G2.
And for those that don't know, it's a higher end Nexus price type phone, right? How much was it? I don't know exactly the price. Was it 400, 300?
395.
Okay, so yeah, it was close.
395.
Um, no contract. You had to order directly from them, and it's still like kind of in a preview stage
Correct.
where only
We'll
certain
see.
people are getting them. So Dave's
We'll
lucky.
see how this thing works.
Yeah.
I'll
So
let you know how the camera works for sure.
the camera. That's in the big, and that is. It's funny. Windows Phone has it. The Nokia ones. Um, the iPhones, they got it. Android, no matter what they do to these cameras, something just ain't right. And a lot of these are the same sensors. That's the funniest thing. A lot of the Android phones use the same sensors as the iPhone. You put those pictures next to each other, you're like,
Isn't it
whoa,
crazy how Android can't seem
software.
if they could come up with a
It's
camera.
it's gotten a little better. I've noticed in the year, if I look at a picture from a year ago when I took on the same phone till now, it's much improved. But
Right.
it's so you can tell it's software. You could definitely see it's software.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know how the One Plus is doing. I'll tweet out when I get it tomorrow. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my Surface Pro 3. Um, I started keeping a little log if I had like weird things happen, and I think with today's firmware release, I think that Microsoft has stepped up and fixed a few things that were happening. Um, I experienced a power issue. This was the beginning of July. Um, I was, and I had not experienced this before. I had not experienced this with the loaner unit that I had, and this is on my official, uh, my Surface Pro 3 that I paid for. My battery was dying. I had been using this thing for days, right? And I had not charged it, and it was down to like the last time I looked was 8%. I was trying to get something done. And it kept telling me eight, 10%, 8%. It comes up with that big strip of warning, your battery is getting low. And I'm like, I know, I'm trying to fix something. I need to go. I need to go. And then something happened. I walked away from the Surface and I came back to it and I hit the Windows button and it came back on, right? And I thought, ooh, I'm going to be really low on battery. So I need to finish this. And I when it came back on, I still had 8% battery, but I lost my Wi-Fi, I lost Bluetooth, everything, all kinds of connectivity. I couldn't reset the adapters to save my life. They would not reset. I literally had to reboot and get it back, finish my note, and then just shut it down and put it on the charger. So that was a weird little thing that happened. And that never happens when it's got a good charge on it, when it's got plenty of power. I think when the screen shut off, it did something weird. It made some weird decision on power management and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, lost radios. Something went crazy. I charged. I took the Surface Pro 3 on a vacation recently, and I charged it up on July 2nd, and I just stuck it on the charger, the night before you leave, right? You stick it on the charger, and then on the morning of the 3rd, I grabbed it, put it in my bag, didn't touch it, didn't mess with it. Actually, I didn't use it on this vacation whatsoever. Generally I take a power device, a laptop, Surface, in case I need to do an FTP into a web server, do some kind of mods to, a MySQL database, do something. I need a power device. I can't use an iPad. I can't use an Android tablet. I have to have, a power laptop. But I didn't need it. So it just stayed in my bag there, and I'm on vacation. I don't need it.
Right.
So I picked it up. So I pulled it off the charger on the 3rd of July, threw it in my bag, and I didn't turn it back on until today, about noon. I picked up the Surface Pro 3, clicked the kickstand out, popped it on the table, pulled the keyboard down, hit the Windows key, and it popped on, and it was there for me and had 93%.
That's awesome.
So I mean, many of you thought maybe I was going to gig it for doing something stupid again, but I was pretty impressed by that. I thought I can handle this. I lost 7% over, what, 5 days? So I thought that was great.
That's
I
pretty
didn't
cool.
mind that. I
That's
didn't
been a
mind.
big issue with my Surface the RT version, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, well, Surface RT, sometimes that thing can crank away in your bag and it's dead in
Yeah, that's
hours.
one of the
Yeah.
more frustrating things. But it should work. Windows 8, my laptop I'll close. I had it like for a weekend, pick it up exactly where I left off. So it's good. It's good the Surface Pro is acting the same way, because it's important. You put it in your bag, you know it's charged enough. You don't want to think about it. I mean, it has to be there when you need it, and especially you're paying that kind of money.
Yeah,
People want
I
that to be
thought that
their
was a great
device.
thing. And today's firmware update was,
It's supposed to help the battery, right? Uh,
yeah, battery changes,
Type cover helps the trackpad. I saw.
right. And they actually came out and said, hey, we know it has Wi-Fi issues in certain situations,
Right.
and we'll have a fix,
Next week, the
yeah,
16th.
next week or in 2 weeks or something. So,
There was a fix today also for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, a minor one, and there'll be another one next week. They said on the 16th.
and
Uh,
I've noticed some oddities with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
mhm.
But honestly, Surface Pro in general has had Bluetooth weirdness.
Both, and RT as well. But they
So
both have had their own.
yeah, and it keeps getting better and better and better and better. But uh, well, I'll figure out what's going on. I honestly, I may with this Surface Pro 3 and why I could not get something. I could not get a Google Hangout done. Maybe it's just embedded in its code. It doesn't like Google Hangouts, but
Right. They don't, or maybe Google said, I don't want no Surface can connect us anymore.
exactly,
There you go.
exactly.
We'll blame Google.
Maybe it's
So
just
that we'll end the show on a positive note.
there we go. Yeah, and I know we talked a lot about Windows Phone, and we jump into Windows Phone, every couple of months and
And they
discuss
are
it.
merging. I mean, right, the
Yeah.
RT and phone and everything else.
So
It is really one platform, right? One Microsoft.
if if I use it, I talk about it, right?
Right.
I know it's a Surface show.
So will we talk about it in the next few months?
I know it's a Surface show, but if I use it, I do talk about it. So.
What about the weather app experience on your phone?
Oh, do you want to get into that?
Oh, that's been in the notes now for weeks.
It has. All right. Well, a tornado dropped from the sky in Indianapolis a couple of weeks ago, and I do need to talk about this because the last podcast I recommended a weather app, Forecaster. Now, all you Windows Phone guys are going to just freak out that I have to pull this recommendation. But here's the story. Windows Phone app, I'm shopping in Lowe's. And I thought it's noisy. You're pushing a cart, it's noisy in a Lowe's home improvement store for folks not in the U.S. Not a grocery, but a home improvement warehouse. And I thought I heard a siren. I thought I heard a tornado siren. I was like, that can't be true. I knew it was going to rain soon. And so I pull out my trusty Windows Phone, and the first thing in a Windows app, or a weather app, if there's an alert, it tells you. It's right there, front and center, right? So my phone is hooked to my zip code, which is I was in a different zip code. So I didn't get any like general alerts. Most of the time, a platform, a phone, if there's danger in your area, you'll get an alert, right?
My
I
phone
was in a
doesn't.
different zip
My phone
code.
was doing it tonight.
Yeah, I was in a different zip code at the time. So that threw it off. I opened the Forecaster app and there was no alerts whatsoever. And I'm like, oh, okay, big deal. Big deal. There's rain coming. So I'm pushing my cart around and I'm like, dude, I hear a siren. So I pushed it outside into the plant area where you can buy plants. The tornado siren's blaring, blaring. People are running around like freaks in this store. I'm like, what is going on? So I literally I went to the App Store, downloaded the Weather Channel app, launched it, and right there front and center was tornado warning. If you are in, XXXX areas, take cover now. Or literally there was a tornado dropping from the sky, several miles from me. So I abandoned my cart and ran. So I did not want to be in a Lowe's for a tornado. So
You don't think that tin roof would stay on very well?
I know, no, too many missiles in a Lowe's, too many. Um, so the end of the story is okay. This app kind of failed me, right? And I didn't want to just head out on Twitter and say, "Dude, this app sucks," and I recommended it, and I have to pull my recommendation. No, I contacted the author, the Forecaster author. I contacted him. I was like, "Here's my situation. Here's what happened. I wanted you to know, so I can give you feedback about your app." And so obviously there's a little bit of a situation between uh, app makers and Weather Underground, who has the Weather Underground has an API for you to pull data into your weather app, and alerts. There's some kind of issue with alerts and timeliness of data, uh, compounded by the fact that I was in a separate zip code than where my phone, was like registered, my home, right? When I get back to my house, I still never got the tornado warning. But when I got back to my house later that day, I got a notification in my app drawer, right? That for flood warnings. There were flood warnings, and that's the notification that you get, in your phone from. It's like a standard. I don't know what this standard is, but they send you, you know, whatever these crazy alerts are if there's something uh, in your area. So there's obviously an issue between this app and Weather Underground, and I contacted the author, and I honestly I advised him. I was like, I can't recommend the app, and I highly advise you to do something. Tell people, because I
Especially
pulled
this
up the
time of
app.
year.
What's that?
Especially this time of year.
Yeah, I pulled up the app and it told me there were no alerts. And had I, trusted that and gone about my merry way, what if a tornado had wiped out the lows that I was in? Didn't. Everything's fine, but
And this is something Cortana should handle, first of all. Like my Google phone, the Google Now always has any kind of alert, and the phone doesn't stop buzzing until you dismiss it. iOS is the same thing. It's system level.
it's
Uh,
system level, right? There's
National
something
Weather
where okay,
National
the
Weather
phone
Service
did.
deals with it.
The phone did. When I got
Right.
back to my zip
But
code,
it should do it by location, unless your
it
location
told me
turned
there
on.
was a flood warning.
But why didn't that system tell you there's a tornado
Okay,
warning?
right. There's two different things here. It's not
That,
just the forecaster app.
no, that's a problem.
It was something in general about.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think it,
I
I think it
felt
was
really weird about that, and
right.
I instantly I changed over to the Weather Channel. That's my app. That's my weather app.
I wonder if Bing Weather worked. Did you try that?
Yes, I took a screenshot of it. There were
Oh, okay.
no alerts. I
Oh,
have
perfect.
screenshots of everything,
Perfect. I
and
was
then
sitting
I have literally a picture of the intersection I was at and the wall cloud. I
right.
mean, it's no joke. Timestamp everything. There's a freaking wall cloud. I walked out of the Lowe's. I'm like, Jesus, there's this huge thing spinning, and so I drove away from it.
That's good advice. The thing was last week or the week before. It's just I was out and we're at a bar, and one of those alerts came in, and everyone had their iPhones or their Android phones out, and the entire bar was vibrating
Yeah.
because everyone's phones are going crazy. Thunderstorm warning, whatever it was, or flood warning. And that's one of the things we come to expect. Like the Amber alerts like to pop up every now and then. But these are things we come to expect and we need our phones to do. And to me, it's not the forecaster, which is an app, and I think the guy who writes it, I follow him on Twitter. I think he's a kid. I mean, that's fine.
I don't know if he's a kid. I think he's a teenager.
All right, that's okay. Whatever.
I mean,
Uh,
a kid. I have a kid. He's
all right,
7.
fine. He's a
Okay.
teenager. Whatever. He's a teenager who might understand what what your thought process was.
No,
Um,
and I realized that when I talked with him, and I said I highly advise you to put some type of if he knows, I said, and you know that this is an issue, you need to tell
right,
your customers, even if
right.
this thing is free,
And
you
I
have
think
to
they do have
tell
a
them
paid version.
because
Um,
there's a liability issue, and I don't know what that liability is.
right.
Maybe
You'll
there's
find
not.
out.
Maybe there's
Uh,
not. I just said, here's what I would do.
but
And I told him, I said, I'm not going to lambaste you on the podcast. I have to pull my review, and I'm going to tell people that there's
what
an
would
issue
worry
with
me more
your.
though is that the system didn't forget the. It didn't matter which app you're using. If you didn't have a weather app on, phones are set up now, and all
True.
the National Weather Service and the whole U.S. Phones are made to alert you of these things, and that's what they're built
They make
for.
alerts. Yeah.
Even if you didn't have Forecaster or Bing Weather or Weather Channel, your phone and the fact that you didn't have any, that's to me is a bigger issue than
A lot of things failed. A lot of
uh,
things failed. Yeah.
right. You had a few things there and they all failed.
Yeah. And
Oh.
we,
Glad you
of
drove
course, I
away.
went home, and the kids and the dog and some family members, they put them all in a bathroom. And I wasn't going in that bathroom. I went outside looking for the tornado, but
Oh, tough guy. Until he saw the cloud, then he ran to the bathroom, hid under the sink.
exactly. I wanted a picture of a tornado. But,
Oh, there you
it was a
go. The
weird
icon worked good.
situation. And I thought I would tell you I was going to save it until next week, but
Well, these are
we're
those
running
real
so
life,
long.
like, we always talk about the apps, and it doesn't matter if who cares if it's Snapchat or Tinder, right? These are things we're getting used to with these devices, and these are things that these devices actually can do to save lives and can make a difference in everyone's life. You know, Especially tornadoes. I mean, tornadoes is the best example, right? Hurricanes, you forecast days out. Thunderstorms, you use a few. Tornadoes, like, storms are coming through, but those things, there's a hook in the middle of the radar. It's like 3 seconds later, you have 3 minutes to tell a town to shelter. And I know you have the sirens in the Midwest. We don't have such things. In the Midwest, you have the sirens, but everyone has a phone in their hands now.
Yeah.
And that system's in place now, and that has to work because
Yeah.
the fact it's there, so it's like that comfort level. So you didn't even think when you were hearing the siren, you're like, nah, my phone would tell me.
Exactly. I'm
So
like,
we have that comfort
yeah.
level now. So that has to work. And to be honest, my Windows phone never alerts me. It's on the night table. My Android and my 1520 be plugged in next to each other. Um, from Amber Alerts to flood warnings, thunderstorm warnings, tornado watch came up. My 1520 has never sent me one of those.
Well, I
So
mean,
I don't know if it's something in the Windows Phone or if it's something the carriers have it installed. I don't know if it's a carrier issue. It
I would
could be.
expect if I have a SIM card in it that it
Right. So I
should
don't know.
work.
I don't know how that's handled, to be honest with you.
I don't either, and
'Cause I know it's started in iOS only, so it
we'll
might
have
be
to be
carrier issue. I'm
careful,
not sure.
and maybe someone can educate us on how that is supposed to work. But
Right.
I would expect if I have a SIM card in it, then I'm on network.
It should work.
My network should alert me, right?
Right. And the networks do. And like tonight at the National Weather Service icon, buzz, 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 and it was only showed up on my Moto X, didn't show up on my 1520.
Yeah,
And that's not app related. That was through the system.
yeah.
So
Well, again,
fix that.
SIM card. If I have a
D-
SIM card in it, it better tell me.
Dave wants to know when to run out of Lowe's.
Right. It was a tornado. It was a little one, but
Tough
it
to find out
tossed
that
some
here.
things around.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
Doesn't take much. All right, I think we've killed this list, and
Yep.
again, we've done a lot of Windows Phone.
That's
There's
where most of the news has been.
what's that?
That's where most of the news has been. I mean, as much
It
as you.
has, it has, but I mean, it's been a lot of Surface news too. So
Right, the Surface Mini, yes and no. And
back,
that was yesterday. It's like, wow, it's coming. No, it's not.
no, no, it's not. Don't get your hopes up. I would love for it to be a holiday purchase
Hmm.
because I would love for it to be available when I go to Redmond early November, but it's just not going to be the case. Evie Leaks, you're wrong. You're wrong, sir.
There you go.
All right. Hey, that's been Surface Geeks. What are we up to? 70 something?
71, I think. Right.
71?
I just
71.
closed the notes. I think it's 71.
We've been just winging it for like an hour. Just close the notes. All right. Thanks for listening to this big, long, crazy podcast. We'll have Mr. John Wiskowski for you back here next week. Follow on Twitter, twitter.com/Surface Geeks if you'd like to, especially if you'd like to know how this phone shootout's going to happen. I'm gonna be shooting out some phones. So, all right, thanks, Darren.
See ya.
Hey, tell us what you think. See you in the forums. Goodbye. Snack break.
There you go. Thanks, everyone.
Whew.
I'm looking at the power outage map. We got lucky.
Are you?
Yeah. Showed up on Twitter.
Oh, I gotta check my beach.
More than
Bay on Boynton
50,000.
Beach.
Wow. That's no good. The beach. Oh, you pick a beach yet?
My base.
Oh.
Have you started it on Android yet? Because
Which
I have not.
the beach? I haven't. I did. I just didn't. I used it once. I think I never really went back in. Let's see. Boom Beach.
Boom Beach. I was just wondering how they
Oh, they. Oh, how you play with other
how they
people?
gameplay together. It's like Google
Oh, I
Play or
didn't.
something, right?
Hmm.
I
They're talking.
collected my coins and
How do you
money.
play with other people?
It just puts you in with everybody.
Oh, just I don't see anybody else unless I'm
When you
attacking
first
other.
start out, it like
Oh,
it kind of guides you.
it logs you into the Google Play Games thing though. That I see when you log in.
Yeah, I was kind of curious on if you could play with friends or your friends would show up or something.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know if anyone else I know playing. I'll try later. It's been great. I've been using Nexus 7. Well, that's LT, but Wi-Fi on the beach. It's been great.
Oh yeah.
The screen actually you can see. Shockingly.
Well, we'll see how this cyanogen thing, this One Plus.
Yeah, that looks interesting. All right, anyone else there in the chat room? They have 5 invites. Good night, everyone.
Someone was asking
Thank
about invites.
you. Yeah, Tablet Junkie.
I'm probably going to figure out a way to
Might as well. People want them.
out, right? Maybe I run a promotion on the.
Listen to the Surface Geeks. Get an Android phone.
No, I'd probably do it for home automation forums. Try to
Oh,
drum
I'm
up
kidding. All right.
some,
Home Automation Geeks.
mm, try to get some action going on the forums.
There you go. All right. I think I'm gonna
Well,
cut out
guys,
now. It's almost 12 o'clock.
I gotta check my base.
You enjoy yourself. Figure out what your Ethernet issue is.
Thanks for hanging with us, guys.
See ya.
Forums. Night, Darren.
Night. Meow.